Okay, we're back, and what an honor and a delight to have back with us today Erick Stakelbeck, and we've had him on several times. You see his program right here on theDove TV, Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, and it's called The Watchman. This guy is on top of it, and what an honor, because I know everybody's after him, but now he's arrived. He's on the Dove. But anyway, his book, The Brotherhood, America's Next Great Enemy. Erick, my friend, how are you?
Harry, I'm great. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you as always.
I see you all over the place. When do you sleep?
Few and far between. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old too, so it's a challenge.
Whoa.
But feeling blessed, you know. I mean, for such a time as this, to get the message out and to sound the alarm for the American people and hopefully people on an international level. I feel privileged that God has given me this platform to be a watchman on the wall.
Well, you are truly that, and we pray for you and thank the Lord for your tenacity and your giftings. And quite frankly, He's favoring you to get some great interviews. You're just doing a wonderful job. Tell us about the book. I know that this is the passion of your heart, is America understanding what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah. You know, Perry, I guess if I have a talent in this, it's to break it down for the average American. The person at home who's not a foreign policy expert, who can't really wrap their head around what's going on in the Middle East, I try and break it down in easy to understand terms. And I had to tackle the Muslim Brotherhood in this new book, Perry, because they are really the most influential radical Islamic terrorist group in the world. They are the original Islamic terrorist group, present in some 70 countries, and there's been so much misinformation about this group that they're moderate, that they are against al-Qaeda, that they've changed their spots, that I had to write the book and set the record straight. Look, the Muslim Brotherhood is, as I said, the granddaddy of them all, Perry, when it comes to Islamic terrorist groups. They spawned al-Qaeda, they created Hamas, and I make the point in the book, it may shock some people, but I say it without hesitation, that without the creation of the Muslim Brotherhood way back in 1928 in Egypt, there would have been no 9/11. Everyone behind that attack, from Osama bin Laden to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, all of them, before they formed al-Qaeda, they belonged to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is the gateway drug to Islamic terrorism. And if you want to understand this whole war on terror, this radical Islamic mess we're up against, you must first understand the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's why I wrote the book.
Well, thank you. We have watched our president try to go into Syria and maybe draw a line and divide, but at the end of the day, the whole Syrian thing is our enemy. What in the world are we doing in there?
What a debacle. Well, you know, Perry, right now, we have farmed out our Syria policy anyway to Vladimir Putin's Russia. What a sad day for America, when we are farming out our foreign policy to a dictator in Moscow. But the bottom line is, thank God we did not go into Syria, Perry. I think that would have been a total disaster, a debacle. When you look at Syria, on one side you have al-Qaeda, its allies, and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're fighting against, on the other side, Iran, Hezbollah, and the Assad regime. Now, I look at that and I say, 5 of America's greatest enemies are killing each other. Why would we want to get involved in that mess?
Right.
I have no idea what our thought process is there. There is no strategic interest for the United States in Syria. And as we aid the so-called rebels in Syria, those rebel factions, everyone needs to understand, are increasingly dominated, Perry, by al-Qaeda. So we are literally going to be arming al-Qaeda just as we did in Libya. And that didn't work out so well, if Benghazi is any indication.
So then, Erick, why is the Obama administration continuing to compromise with the Muslim Brotherhood? What's the deal?
You know, in the book, I describe it on 2 tracks, Perry. On the first track, you have these naive State Department bureaucrats who think the Muslim Brotherhood are the moderate Islamists. We can work with these guys. They wear suits and ties. They speak fluent English. They're Western educated. They seem very reasonable and very charming, Perry. I know, because I've interviewed them face to face. I talk about my encounters with the Brotherhood in my book. So our naive government officials, many of them, they fall for it hook, line, and sinker. They think the Brotherhood are the good guys. We can work with them. On the other track, which is kind of the more provocative track, some in this administration are, in my estimation, revolutionary leftists. And I look at President Obama saying he wants to, and I quote him, fundamentally transform America. Well, the Islamists also want to fundamentally transform America. Now, the radical left, like our president and some in this administration, and the radical Islamists, like the Brotherhood, on the surface, they don't have much in common at all. Very strange bedfellows, but they share one thing in common, Perry, that's very important: a shared dislike for traditional America and Judeo-Christian Western civilization.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's another factor here with the Obama administration.
All right, so you got a meltdown going on in Syria, and now we got one in Egypt, and you kind of wonder, okay, and the president today, I mean, I saw, we had a story earlier where he wants Israel to give up the Jordan Valley. I mean, what's going on here? And the Muslim Brotherhood's rule in Egypt, what has that done to the country?
Well, look, only a year. Thankfully, Perry, the Muslim Brotherhood was only in power for a year in Egypt, but wow. Look at the damage that has been done in just 1 year of Muslim Brotherhood rule. Look, some areas of Egypt are close to famine. I do not exaggerate. People are close to starvation there. The economy's in the toilet. The tourist industry of Egypt, which is really the lifeblood of that economy, Perry, is also in the toilet. There's massive civil unrest. You have terrorist attacks. You have the possibility of the Suez Canal being shut down by terrorists. 8% of the world's oil passes through there every day. It is a disaster right now in Egypt. I spoke to Egyptian officials recently, Perry, in New York City during the UN General Assembly, and they told me, look, we have the Muslim Brotherhood under control. We're getting this thing under control slowly but surely. But I'll tell you, it is such a fluid situation in Egypt, and things that seemed improbable are now happening in the Middle East on a daily basis. So Egypt is far from out of the woods yet.
All right, so speak to the persecution of the Christians and even the Orthodox in those countries. I mean, we're not getting those reports on the American press, but from what I understand, it is horrible.
Horrific, and thank God that theDove is covering that issue, Perry, because it is such an important issue. Look, the Christian persecution in Egypt, basically, and I don't exaggerate, again, the Muslim Brotherhood and its radical Islamist allies are conducting a slowly creeping genocide of the Christians of Egypt. They want to wipe Christianity out of Egypt. Now think about it. This is one of the oldest Christian communities in the world. According to history, the Apostle Mark founded the Christian community in Egypt. Well, right now we have a situation where churches are being burnt to the ground in Egypt, sometimes with worshipers still inside. As a matter of fact, after the military overthrew the Brotherhood back in July and August, Perry, some 70 Christian churches were burnt to the ground. Now, Christians are being attacked in the streets. We had reports of nuns being dragged through the streets of Cairo, mocked and beaten by Muslim Brotherhood members. So this is the situation right now in Egypt. The Obama administration has nothing to say about it. And what we're seeing right now there, not only in Egypt, but around the Middle East, Perry, and in the Muslim world, is the culmination of an old radical Islamic saying. First the Saturday people, the Jews, then the Sunday people, the Christians. Now they chase the Jews out of every Muslim country. Now they're trying to chase the Christians out of every Muslim country. And I'm sad to say they are succeeding.
Do you think that the civil war among themselves in the long run could backfire? In other words, I know that they got their eyes on Israel and they got their eyes on the United States, but if they can't settle the differences among themselves, they could end up doing great harm to themselves.
They could, and they're doing it right now. Look, Perry, look at Syria. Some 110,000 people killed. And again, you have the Sunni Muslims on one side, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're battling against the Shiites, Iran, Hezbollah, the Assad regime. So that shows you the nasty, nasty, violent, destructive nature of these intra-Islam rivalries. So on one hand, you have that. You have the Saudis, some of the Gulf states, Jordan, Egypt, fearful of a looming Shia powerhouse in Iran and a looming Iranian nuclear weapons program. So yes, you do have that rivalry, but in many cases, Perry, at the end of the day, a hatred for Israel and America trumps any Shia-Sunni rivalry. That's why you see the Sunni Hamas working with Shia Iran. You've seen Al-Qaeda work with Iran. So at the end of the day, if something breaks out and Israel is in the crosshairs, I think in many situations there, Shia and Sunni would turn their guns from each other and turn them on to Israel. Now, if Israel, God forbid, and we've read the Bible, so we know it's never going to happen, but if Israel were to be wiped off the map like the Islamists desire, the Islamists would then turn their guns back on each other.
Okay. We know that Iran continues to be the center of attention as far as its nukes capability. And if Israel does go at it alone and neutralizes their nuclear capability, they also have to be ready for the retaliation that would bring upon them. Are they prepared for that?
I think they are. You know, I speak to Israeli officials pretty frequently, really on and off the record for the past decade or so, Perry. I've been speaking to them, and I can tell you, number one, Israel is not going to allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. That's without a doubt. We saw Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speak at the UN last week. Right. He made that abundantly clear, and he said, look, we are willing to go it alone if we have to. And a little side note there, Perry, something I found fascinating about his appearance, he quoted from the Bible, and Israel's Prime Minister said, and I quote, "Biblical prophecies are being fulfilled in Israel today." That was extraordinary for the Prime Minister of Israel to say that before the UN, and he went on to quote from the book of Amos in front of all of these assembled leaders of Israel.
It was brilliant.
That was fascinating to me. So Israel, I believe, is painted into a corner now. The Obama administration has committed to dialogue with the great moderate Hassan Rouhani, this new Iranian president, another wolf in sheep's clothing, much like the Muslim Brotherhood. The Obama administration has made clear they just want dialogue with Iran. They don't want war. So Israel now will be all alone. And when they strike, there will be retaliation from Hezbollah, Hamas, from Iran. But, you know, Israel has shown a genius over the years and over the decades, Perry, with some daring, creative military actions and maneuvers. So I think Israel knows it will get nasty, but I think they are fully confident that they will survive and they will thrive in the aftermath.
Well, you know, when Prime Minister Netanyahu gave a speech to the UN and he said, if we have to go it alone, we will, wasn't that an admission that America does not have its back?
Yeah, I mean, Perry, he's got to know, Prime Minister Netanyahu has got to know that the Obama administration does not have Israel's back. When the rubber hits the road at the end of the day, when the chips are down, he's got to know in his heart, in his gut, that President Obama will not be there for him, and Israel will have to go it alone. And my big question here, Perry, is if and when Israel does strike that Iranian nuclear weapons facility, which is, by the way, an existential threat not only to Israel but to America, how does the Obama administration react? Do they even condemn Israel? That's a good possibility. Look, if the Obama administration says, hey, we're having dialogue with the Iranians right now, Israel, and you're messing it all up, we could have resolved this peacefully. If they say that and Israel acts and war breaks out, we may feel some of the repercussions here through Iranian and Hezbollah terror attacks. Let's be honest. They are here, those assets.
A couple questions as a follow-up here, Eric. Is there members of the Brotherhood in the Obama administration? We've heard rumors. Can you verify that?
Well, absolutely. There's individuals linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. I write about this in detail, Perry, in the book. I make the point in the book, you don't have to be a card-carrying member of the Muslim Brotherhood. That's a unique thing about this group. It's millions and millions of Islamists around the world who adhere to the same ideology, a specific ideology, the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology. So you don't have to be an actual member to be a brother. But if you march to the tune of the Muslim Brotherhood, you are a Muslim brother. And we absolutely have individuals like that in the White House advising this administration right now. I'll give you a name, a guy named Mohammed Majid. You can Google him, M-A-G-I-D. He's the president of an organization called the Islamic Society of North America, Perry. And this is a group that the Obama administration considers its main outreach partner in the Muslim community. Mohammed Majid has advised the president on immigration, on the Middle East, personally met with President Obama. Why is this troubling? His organization, the Islamic Society of North America, was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terrorism financing trial in American history. Wow. That's ISNA. This is a group that a federal judge has linked to Hamas. It's a group with a nasty track record of anti-Semitic statements, and clearly linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, according to the Brotherhood's own documents, which I share in the book, Perry. So look, this is a nasty group, a radical group that has the ear of our White House.
Let me just say to our viewers and listeners again, and Erick's book is called The Brotherhood, America's Next Great Enemy. There's a picture of it there on the screen for those of you watching on the Dove TV. Let me encourage you, get a copy of this book. It is a tremendous resource. So, Erick, obviously the Fort Hood massacre certainly wasn't a workplace violence. I don't know why we designated it that, but I think there's a sympathy or a sympathetic attitude towards the Muslim Brotherhood from this administration that is beyond alarming. I mean, I don't know why we're just not flat crying out trying to stop it. But the other thing I've noticed is in the various protests in the UK, when the Muslims begin to protest in the various areas of the UK, London and elsewhere, they're holding up signs that are pretty disturbing. In fact, saying, you know what, 9/11 is nothing to what we're going to do to you. Why in the world are we tolerating this?
You know, Great Britain, I'll tell you, I've been there many times, Perry, covering these very issues that you mentioned, and I've interviewed some of those guys who are holding up those signs. I've interviewed their leader, a guy named Anjem Chowdhury. I actually talk about him in the book. He's been on episodes of my show, The Watchman, on theDove, and these guys are open about what they want. They want to turn Britain into an Islamic state and kill non-Muslims. Why are we tolerating it? It's diversity, multiculturalism, tolerance gone mad, in my opinion, Perry. Look, you cannot tolerate the intolerant.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Western governments are doing. Yes, we have freedom of speech, of course, but man, when you talk about murder and overthrowing your country in the public square, that's a limit to freedom of speech for me. That's what we have. These are seditious individuals, seditious organizations that seek the destruction of their own country. That's clear.
All right, Erick, I wish I had you for hours, but I only got about a minute left. So can we stop this in the United States? Is there hope for us to get our head around this and stop it in the United States?
I think it's going to start at the grassroots, Perry. I think as long as the Obama administration is in, it's going to be very difficult. I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie. This is what you get when you vote for this man twice, the American people, unfortunately. So, look, it's going to start at the grassroots. Educate yourself, everyone watching. Read up on this stuff. You don't have to be an expert, but just kind of keep on top of it. Connect with like-minded people. Make your voice heard to your congressman, state senator, Facebook, Twitter. You can connect with people on this. Join groups like Christians United for Israel, CUFI, Pastor Hagee's group. That's a great group sounding the alarm. Act for America is another group. Watch theDove, watch CBN, and main thing you got to do, pray, 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 because it works. All
right, and get a hold of Erick's book. It's called The Brotherhood, America's Next Great Enemy. It is a tremendous resource. Erick, keep up the good work. The Watchman on theDove every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Our partnership with them is tremendously valued. Love you, brother. Praying for you. Hang in there.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.
God bless. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.